broiler chicks into a market age birds at farm level by applying scientific management principles from Dr. Prakash. Then what happened to these market age live birds? These live birds will be lifted and transported through vehicles with the proper veterinary certificate obtained from the farm level veterinarian, and also abiding the rules and regulations laid down for animal transport by competent regulatory authorities like Transport Department and Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Government of India, to the processing plant, that is primary processing unit, or otherwise known as slaughterhouse. So in the slaughterhouse, the live bird will be converted into carcasses and cuts. So these carcasses and cuts obtained through primary processing will be utilized in further processing unit as a raw material for preparation of several processed meat products. So to discuss in detail about various operations in primary and further processing, I call upon Dr. Rajendrakumar. Sir is an alumni of Tamil Nadu Veterinary Animal Sciences University and is serving as assistant professor in College of Poultry Production Management since 2013. So I invite Rajendrakumar to take over the class.
A very good afternoon to all participants, and I welcome on behalf of College of Poultry Production Management those who are attending this faculty development program on ensuring the safety of poultry meat and their products in the domestic market. Now we will see about so what are the steps that are involved in them? So this session will be about primary processing and further processing of poultry meat.
Hello. हाँ hello. तुशाल दी ना. शाश्वत कुठे?
Primary processing starts with birds after attending marketing or after attending the way of education. By means of trucks, either in the crates or in the cages.
Dr. Kadam, kindly unmute yourself. Dr. Kadam, Mahesh Kadam. Rajendrakumar, நீங்க unmute பண்ணலாம். As a host நீங்க unmute பண்ணுங்க எல்லாரும்.
Okay.
इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? हाँ, क्योंकि अगर एंजाइटी मेरे को क्योंकि सब आके शांत कर रहे कि एंजाइटी अटैक आ रहा है, उसको मत बोलो वहाँ पे जो उसकी हालत हो रही थी वो मेरी भी हालत हो रही थी. किसी ने नहीं बोला था जीशान, किसने बोला था?
So so the process starts by unloading the birds. Unloading the birds at the poultry processing plant, either in the cages or in the crate. And so in the initial process, that is when the birds that are arriving in the processing plant, so it is recommended to allow them some rest. So depending upon the journey period or depending upon the climatic conditions, the birds that are traveling, either in the extreme heat or cold condition or in the long journey. So reducing this stress level and providing the time that is recommended for the birds to return to the physiologically normal, that is normal breathing and heart rate and without any panting. So it's very important, and reducing the problems that are associated with the meat quality as well as the animal welfare or as well as the bird welfare is also very much essential nowadays in providing the rest to the birds that are arriving on the slaughterhouse. So the processing steps starts by these are the sequence of events that are occurring in the primary processing of poultry, which is supply of live birds, unloading, then followed by stunning, bleeding, scalding, and then defeathering, oil and feed removal, and re-handling, evisceration, in the inspection or post-mortem inspection, and giblet harvesting, then head, crop, and lung removal, or rinsing or washing the carcass, and then chilling either by air or water chilling, and weighing, grading, and portioning and packaging. So this will occur as a sequence of events, and we will see in one by one. The first is unloading. So unloading in previous days, the unloading is done. So unloading is done manually. So by unloading the trucks with crates, and it is placed on the conveyor belt, and the crates will be carried to the shackle line where the birds will be taken manually from the cages or the crates, and it will be hanged on the shackle. And for the following steps, that is by stunning, bleeding, and defeathering, scalding, defeathering steps that will be followed. And whereas in case of there are nowadays we have automated unloading system where the entire module will be lifted and the birds will be allowed to walk on the conveyor belt. So there are some systems that is available with some plants that are operating to minimize the handling of birds, and to minimize the injuries that are associated with handling of the birds during the taking the birds from the cages or loading them into the cages. So there are some differences in unloading of electrical stunning and as well as controlled atmosphere stunning. So in case of electrical stunning, the birds will be unloaded and it will be placed on the shackle. A live bird will be placed on the shackle. So whereas in case of controlled atmosphere stunning, the crates will be unloaded and it will be taken to the tunnel or a place where the birds will be stunned after the exposure to the gaseous atmosphere, either carbon dioxide or inert gases or nitrogen, or the mixture of gases. And then the crates will be taken to the conveyor platform and the birds will be shackled. The birds which are anesthetized by means of gaseous method will be hanged in the shackle and the process will go on. So that is the difference between the unloading in case of electrical stunning as well as controlled atmosphere stunning. So each and every method has one or two advantages or one or two disadvantages with the method. So in case of controlled atmosphere stunning, the entire crates will be exposed to the gaseous method. So whereas it is difficult to determine if any dead birds are available before the slaughter, or during the transport. It is difficult to analyze the dead birds, arriving on the arriving by the truck during the unloading. So after unloading, the birds will be shackled and be taken to the next crossing line, that is the stunning. So stunning is normally done to render the animal unconscious, that is prior to the slaughter, by means of electrical current, gases, or by means of mechanical means that is available for easier as well as for the safe handling of the birds, and also to improve the animal welfare. And it is normally done as a way of improving the animal welfare by minimizing the pain and suffering that is related to the bleeding. Stunning should result in what are the methods of stunning that is used. So it should be result in a rapid onset of stress-free insensibility. That is, it should cause immediate loss of immediate onset of insensibility. So radical method or gaseous method or by mechanical methods, it should result in stress-free insensibility. So it should be in sufficient duration. The onset of insensibility should be of sufficient duration to remain. The bird should remain unconscious until the death is caused by means of examination or bleeding. So the stunning does not cause the death. So it is only done to keep the bird that is free from pain or suffering that is related to the bleeding as well as the further steps. So it is done by either that is mechanical means and electrical means or gaseous stunning. So mechanical, that is penetrative and non-penetrative, that is available. So there is no longer that is used for poultry, and the electrical stunning and the gaseous stunning is the method that is used for poultry. And among these two methods, electrical stunning is one of the predominantly used method for the stunning of birds. So in order to ensure that animal welfare or bird welfare, so human slaughter regulation require that duration of unconsciousness. So the duration of insensibility or unconsciousness. So it should be induced by whatever the method, the electrical stunning or carbon method. So it should be in a longer time than the sum of intervals that is between the sum of intervals that is between end of stunning and the neck cutting, as well as the time taken for the bleeding. So it should be considered, both the time intervals should be considered for the stunning method. So therefore, so if there is any unwanted delay in the neck cutting or is there, so that will not lead to the animal welfare issues or affecting the carcass quality. The first one is electrical stunning. So electrical stunning is done or it is done by means of causing a sufficient amount of electrical current through the central nervous system of bird for a given amount of time. For there are two different types of electrical stunning: high voltage electrical stunning or low voltage electrical stunning. And different time interval is also there. Is also the 3 seconds, 4 seconds. The state of unconsciousness that is induced by electrical results from inhibition of impulses from both reticular activating and somatosensory system. So it reduces the impulses and it causes the unconsciousness due to the electricity. So the method is most universally accepted, and it is used for immobilizing poultry that is prior to the slaughter and processing plant.
Slide more and get to the
Sir, slide more on sir.
Yeah, it is moving, more. இது ஸ்லைட் ஷோ போடுங்க, ஸ்லைட் ஷோ.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir. So the heretical stringing is mostly accepted method, and it is followed everywhere for immobilizing the poultry that is prior to the slaughtering in the processing plant, and it causes rapid immobilization of bird, and that reduces any further struggle that is associated with slaughter, and that is bleeding, and improve the bleed out rate when you compare with the other method. So, and it is also considered as inexpensive, safe, and convenient method of slaughter, and it is easy to use also. So, whenever the birds on shackle line, so the bird should be suspended from shackle line that is moved to the vertical standard. So, their water bath is placed, a shallow water bath will be filled with 1% brine solution. So it's recommended for the vertical running of the, but the height of the slaughter bath, the height of the water bath also can be adjusted in order to ensure that all the birds or all the heads will be completely immersed in the water for the proper vertical standing. So the minimum vertical current that is recommended for poultry and turkey stunning. So in case of poultry, so there are two types of vertical stunning also can be done. There is the wet method as well as with the dry method. So wet method is there is water bath vertical stunning. In dry method, so by using the tongs, you can stun the birds manually. So whereas by using tongs, there is some delay in the processing line. So and it has to be done manually also. And to avoid it, so you can do what you can go for water bath electrical stunning. In case of poultry, that is 100 milliamperage, and turkey it is 150 milliamperage for 4 seconds. Whereas in case of dry stunning, it is requiring 240 milliamperage and 400 milliamperage for 3 seconds in turkey as well as in the poultry. So slowly there are two types of electrical stunning based on the voltages. That is high voltage electrical stunning and low voltage electrical stunning. So high voltage electrical stunning is usually done around 120 milliamperage of electrical current by using the electrical current. So it results in the incidence of higher incidence of carcass damage. So when you are using high voltage electrical stunning, such as red wings, broken bones, and hemorrhages. These are all the incidents that is resulting from the high voltage electrical stunning. So it can cause 90% heart fibrillation, that is an irregular and often rapid heart rate, that will further result in the insufficient bleeding. So bleeding will not be proper, and severe muscle contraction also will be causing increased hemorrhaging and even death before the bleeding process or the examination. Before the bleeding or examination, so sometimes death will happen in case of high voltage electrical stunning. So it leads to the poor quality as well as the meat quality. So one of the advantages is lowers the risk of birds regaining consciousness during the slaughter process. So even though it is advantageous, it is considered as major disadvantages in the high voltage electrical stunning. Next one is low voltage electrical stunning. So in case of low voltage electrical stunning, that is done at with 13 to 15 milliampere electrical stunning. So it decreases the carcass quality damage and the hemorrhages that are associated with high voltage electrical stunning. So the birds may regain consciousness in case of low voltage electrical stunning. So when the bleeding is not properly done within 2 minutes after stunning. So in that case, there should not be there should not be time gap between the stunning as well as the bleeding. And based on the placement of tongs, so you can go for another classification, that is aim only electrical stunning or water bath electrical stunning. So next one is gas stunning method. So in CAS, that is controlled atmosphere system. So the broilers will be unloaded and it is kept in the cages, and the cages will be placed on the conveyor belt and carries them to a stunning tunnel. So which where the gases atmosphere is there, and the gases that are commonly used for argon and carbon dioxide is employed for the controlled atmosphere stunning. So either in the container itself can be carried on to the tunnel, or it can be placed on the conveyor of the processing plant and it can be carried to the stunning tunnel where the gaseous atmosphere is there. And the stunning can be done by exposing them to an anoxic atmosphere, that is where the oxygen level will be less than 2% by volume. So that is created with nitrogen, argon, or any other inert gases. So with a minimum of 30% carbon dioxide in the air. So not more than 30% of carbon dioxide cannot be used, and or else a mixture of carbon dioxide with nitrogen and argon, leaving a maximum of residual 2% of this. So both more or less is a similar one. And one more thing is the low atmosphere pressure stunning, LAPS, that is lower atmosphere pressure stunning. So it is done by vacuum pump. So the vacuum pump is used to remove the oxygen and induce the anoxia. So by means of LAPS also you can do the stunning. So after stunning, the next step in the processing sequence is the bleeding. So bleeding is done by severing or cutting the blood vessels in the neck by means of a single blade. That is to sever one of carotid artery or one carotid artery and one jugular vein, or to cut both the carotid artery as well as the jugular artery present on both sides or on either one of the sides, or both the sides. So the bleeding, the time taken for bleeding is between 2 to 5 minutes, depending upon the size, the bird size and the type. And so during the bleeding phase, only about 35 to 50% of the total blood volume is removed. So based on the blood percentage, so it is only 35 to 50% of the blood volume will be removed, and the remaining blood volume will be retained in the visceral organs. Heart, lung will be retaining some amount of blood will be retained, and so the bleeding time also is affected by the pre-starter stress and method of stunning and interval between the stunning and bleeding. So pre-starter stress such as excess heat during the transport, or excess adverse climatic conditions during the transport, or rough handling of birds during the shackling, or any disturbances during the during the unloading, or the method of stunning, whether the electrical stunning or gas stunning, or you are using high voltage electrical stunning, the interval between the stunning and bleeding. So it has to be, the bleeding has to be done within 2 minutes after the stunning. So if it is excess, then the birds may retain consciousness, or in case of electrical stunning, and the birds may sometimes the death may be caused in case of high voltage electrical stunning. So these are all things that the factors that will affect the bleeding of carcass. So in modified kosher method, so that is the traditional method of slaughter. modified closure method. Both the jugular veins are cut just below the jaws, so the trachea and esophagus remain intact and resulted in good bleed out. So it is done by manual method. So whereas in the traditional kosher and halal method of slaughter, so only that specially trained person who are certified for to do the kosher or halal method of slaughter is only allowed for cutting the blood vessels manually. So in case of traditional kosher as well as in the halal method of slaughter. So after bleeding, next one is scalding. So the carcass after bleeding is immersed in the hot water to loosen the feather. So after the bleeding, so it has to be immersed in hot water for loosening of the feather follicles, so that the feathers will be easily removed in the following steps, that is defanging. So nowadays, instead of hot water, some steam scalding has been employed for scalding purpose. So by employing the steam scalding, you can save the water up to 70% of the water can be saved, and you can you can reduce the wastage of water also. And the scalding can also be performed manually. So that is by placing the carcass in a stationary scalding tank. So when you are doing manual processing or the processing of very small quantity, you can go for manual processing. So in that case, you can employ a stationary scalding tank, and the bird will be placed and it can be removed from the scalding tank in case of manual processing. So whereas in case of semi-automatic and automatic processing, so the birds will be on a continuous cycle line, and it will be immersed in hot water while suspended from a moving shackle line. So there are some of the three methods that are commonly employed for scalding. That is soft scalding or semi-scalding, soft scalding or medium scalding, hot scalding. So soft scalding is done at 50 to 53 degrees centigrade for 60 to 180 seconds, and it is used for broilers and young turkeys. So and then some are medium scalding. So it is done at 54 to 58 degrees centigrade for 60 to 120 seconds, and it is used for mature birds. And the hot scalding is done at 59 to 61 degrees centigrade for less than 60 seconds, and it is used for waterfalls. So selecting these among these three methods of scalding, the depends on difficulty in removing the feathers and the age of the bird also. Age of the bird as well as the subsequent chilling method, either water chilling or air chilling is used. So all these methods has a certain influence on selecting the method of scalding. So the bird is the age is more, that is in crossing of breeder birds or breeder spentacles. So the feathers, there is difficulty in removing the feathers, and you can go for hot scalding. So if it is for broilers, you can go for soft scalding. So commonly higher scalding temperature. So scalding temperature is normally employed for loosening of feathers from their follicles. So normally when you go for higher temperature, so that is resulting in better loosening of feathers, and feathers will be easily removed when you go for higher scalding temperature. But it is causing a it results in severeness severeness of the skin. So it is harsh for the skin also. So normally when you are doing hot scalding, the outer layer of the skin, that is epidermis, becomes loose, and the epidermis will be removed. So when the rubber fingers are used to rub the skin during defeathering, and which results in lighter skin color, and if dehydration occurs during a subsequent air chilling operation. So in the thick skin of waterfowl, hot scalding does not cause much discoloration as in does in the young broilers. The soft or semi-scalding, the first one that is soft or semi-scalding, so does not damage much of the outer layer of skin, and it allows for easy deferring. So particularly when you are using with young broilers or young chickens. So in very young broilers, even a milder treatment of medium scalding. So when you are using the medium scalding for broiling, so it can result in removing a part of the outer skin layer. So which leaves the skin very sticky and they and following the chilling method. So when there is when you are following the hair chilling or apart from water and spray chilling, so it will cause the discoloration on the skin. And this discoloration can be avoided based on your method of chilling, that is water chilling as well as the spray chilling. So the discoloration on the skin can be avoided. So there is adequate water agitation. So in scalding time, so the water has to be water agitation should be there for the uniform temperature. So that will confirm the good heat penetration in the feather and the subsequent feather removal also will be easier. So normally water agitation will be done by introducing air bubbles from the water. So another one, normally the feathers will be having the fecal material, that is normally the soil material will be there on the feathers. So therefore it is important to reduce the cross contamination in the common tank. So maintaining and controlling water temperature is one of the important key parameters. So that is necessary for controlling the bacterial load in the scalding tank. So another means is that employment of counterflow design. So where the clean water is introduced at the exit end of the scalding tank. So the birds will be immersed in the one end, and the birds will be going out of the scalding tank in the other end. So normally the clean water will be coming from the exit end of the scalding tank. So where the birds are moving out of the scalding tank, and it flows towards the direction where the birds are introduced, where the carcass are introduced. And so by doing this, the birds that are going, or the carcass going out of the scalding tank has a minimal bacterial load, or it is somewhat clean for the further defoliation as well as the further process. And instead of that, you can install a multi-stage scalding tank operation. So by installing 2 to 4 water tanks, so separated by some transfer zones, that can further reduce the contamination problem. So the initial tanks will be tank 1, 2, 3, 4. Tank 1 and 2 will be more dirty as well as more contamination will be there. And we'll combine the 3, 4 and 5 tanks, that will be somewhat clean with minimal contamination will be there. So next one is defeathering. So removal of feathers is done by mechanical pluckers. So that is normally done in case of manual operation. It is done by means of drum, which is fitted with rubber fins on a regular pattern, and regular spacing is given. That is with drums. So whereas in case of continuous operation, this is done while the birds are moving on a shuttle line. So that will go in between the set of drums that will be placed on the opposite side, and 2 to 3 sets of drums will be rotating, and the discs will be covered with rubber fingers. So these rubber fins will vary according to the size of the bird, height, and the spacing of the disc can be adjusted. The rubber fins can be modified based on the type of one. So if it is for breeder hens or spent hen, so you need some of the hard rubber fins should be there. So the rubber fins should be sharp for the broilers as well as the birds. So the elasticity and the length of fingers will also be varying depending on the type of bird and the task required, the machine speed also. So as I told earlier, that is in manual operation, the defeathering is being done in case of batch type. So where you can place 2 to 3 corners inside a rotating drum that is equipped with rubber fingers that will remove the feathers. So alternately, we can follow the hand picking also. The hand picking is normally done when you want to collect the fancy feathers. So there is required for a decoration or any sport equipment. Next one is oil gland and feet removal. So in small operation, the oil gland and feet is removed manually. Whereas in case of automated line roasting unit, oil gland is removed by hanging the bird in a metal frame. Metal frame bars will be there. So the birds will be angled in such a way, and that the rotating blade will cut the oil gland from the tail area. So the cut must be accurate. It should take out the entire hand gland without damaging the tissues, underlying tissues, or without causing any much damage to the carcass. That will be affecting the meat mold. And normally the feet is removed at the knee joint by the circular blades that is positioned on a sacral lines that severs the leg and the knee joint. So which have been positioned by using the guiding paws. There are some guiding paws will be there. So normally the feet is removed at the knee joint. So the cut should be done within the knee joint. So not through the bones. So if the bones are cut, because the bone cuts will appear dark or red in the chilled meat, and if after cooking it usually appears even much dark. So to avoid that, the cut should be precisely made in the knee joint. So transfer or rehanging. So rehanging is done manually onto a sorting table. So or automatically, say, can be done manually when you are going for semi-automatic, or automatically by transferring the bird right away to another line in reducing the contamination as the carcass move from dirty shackles to the cleaner line. So up to this operation, so it is normally considered as a dirty operation. So after this rehanging is considered as clean area. The shackles used for live birds are commonly washed before being used for the proceeding batch. So after transfer or rehanging, next one is the evisceration. So evisceration proceeds by opening the body cavity and withdrawing the viscera. So normally it is a time-consuming process. The evisceration is much of the time-consuming process in manual operation, and this has been resolved by lengthening the time, lengthening the line length, so that more people can work on the carcass moving on the shackle. So by using the knife and the scissors in case of manual operation, the abdominal skin is cut along the midline from the anterior part of the breastbone to the clearpath, and the visceral organs will be pulled out. So to prevent the spilling of gut content, the skin around the cloaca is usually cut in circular pattern to prevent the spillage of gut content, and or else you can use the vacuum cleaning for the of provisional content has been added and it has been used to reduce the potential contamination. After the visceral contents are removed manually, after that the visceral contents can be removed manually by using the mechanical spoon. Whereas in case of semi-automatic and fully automatic, a moving blade is used to open the abdominal cavity and scoop-like arm is used to withdraw the viscera. And the special care should be taken not to pierce the intestine, so which results in exposing the meat to a high microwave load, and which results is require immediate contamination of the whole parts or whole carcass that is exposed to the film of visceral content. So during evisceration, the viscera are withdrawn from the body cavity but remain attached to the body for the inspection purpose. So whereas in some automated line, the visceral contents are totally separated from the carcass to improve the hygienic look of the carcass. So even after separating from the carcass, it should be presented together. So even after detaching from the carcass, it should be presented together for the inspection. So from which carcass it has to be removed. This removed, and both the carcass and visceral organs are kept on two different lines, and the two different lines will be synchronized together, so that the carcass and visceral organs will move together, and both the carcass as well as the visceral organs will be inspected by the inspector for the post-mortem inspection, and for the consumer outlet. And the inspection is much essential. Next one is the inspection after the evisceration. The next one is inspection. This is much essential to ensure that only wholesome carcass that is fit for consumption should reach the different outlets. So every processing plant or every processing is essential. That is, the inspection is very much essential to ensure that only the wholesome carcass, that is the good carcass or the quality meat should reach the consumer on different outlets. So usually it is carried out by a qualified veterinarian. So after the investigation, all the parts are exposed for the inspection. So if the visceral organs can reveal the diseases and other problems that are associated with internal organs and outside contamination. If at all any contamination is there, so if at all any changes in the appearance of visceral organ or that can reveal some diseases, and that requires affected part can be removed and it can be condemned, or sometimes the whole bird has to be condemned. So when the individual bird inspection is required, the line spurt can be adjusted. So when suppose if it is from a particular lot, so that is affected with some disease outbreak, so that requires individual attention for all the birds. So individual bird inspection is essential in that case. Or else you can where the individual bird inspection is required, the line speed should be adjusted so that the inspector will check the every carcass from the chapter. The inspection area should be equipped with adequate bright light and hand washing station, a rake for handling suspected birds, and bin for collecting the condemned carcass. So next one is giblet harvest. So giblets include heart, liver, and gizzard. So the heart and liver can be harvested easily. The gizzard is muscle is detached from the pack, and the contents are opened, and the contents will be removed, and the lining, that is yellow lining present in the gizzard, will be peeled up, and it is so initially it has been done manually. That is, gizzard muscle will be detached from the intestinal content and it will be cut open, and the lining will be removed and the contents will be removed. After that, the lining will be removed. It is washed and it is packed for the distribution or chilled for the further storage. And whereas in case of mechanical equipment used nowadays for giblet harvesting, it consists of two brood rollers, both right and left. The broods will roll, and so when you cut to open the gizzard and you place the gizzard over the rollers, so it will pull off the yellow lining is pulled and the gizzard is inspected and then washed and then immediately chilled in order to extend the shelf life. So giblets can be sold separately or it can be included in the US rated worldwide after the process. So next is head, trough, neck and lung removal. So the head and trough are removed either before or after the inspection. So normally some of the plants removing the head and trough after the or before inspection. Normally it is done before inspection. So lung can be removed by inserting a rake-like device. So by inserting a vacuum gun, by using a semi-automated vacuum gun, so you can remove the lungs by using the semi-automatic gun. So this vacuum gun will be suspended from the ceiling. That is for easy handling. The vacuum gun. So it is usually attached to the plant's central vacuum system. So these vacuum systems are normally utilized for transporting the trimmings and byproducts to a central location, whereas transport all the trimmings and the waste, that is after deboning bones and after and byproducts, and what are the byproducts are obtained, that can be transported to a central location where all the trimmings and byproducts can be collected and can be processed separately or sent for further processing separately in the rendering plant. And the removal of head can be done manually by using a knife. Or in case of automated system, we have a head puller. So where a guard rail will be there, and that positions the top into a trough-like structure. So where the head will be detached from the wing form, where the carcass is still moving on the shackle line will be continuously moving. The head will be positioned such that head will be guided into a rail-like system. So where it will be pulled, the head will be pulled back and the neck will be broken at the weakest between the atlas and the axis. So this is the head puller. See the head puller, and the care should be taken. Do not damage the esophagus and trachea during the breathing operation. So in this method of crop and trachea, this method of trachea removal is used. So do not damage the esophagus and the trachea. So this method will remove both the crop as well as the trachea. Along with the head, it will be removed. So next one is bird washing or rinsing. So the carcass is usually washed with low volume spray nozzle. So normally washing is done after the investigation, after inspection, after removing all the neck, all the lung, trachea, esophagus, everything has been removed. And after the removal of lung, so normally washing is done to remove the debris that are present on the carcass, that is removed by washing. And normally the low volume spray nozzle, low volume high pressure nozzle is used to rinse the outside of carcass on a moving shaft that is equipped with a nozzle that is inserted into the abdomen. And spray heads are positioned in such a way that the debris is washed from top down, and and all the critical areas, such, for example, the abdominal cavity and the crop area surrounding the crop removed or washed by means of additional spray and also to ensure the blood and debris is removed from the carcass. So after the washing, the carcass will contain some amount of water in the abdominal cavity. So this water can be drained through a opening in the neck that is formed by the removing the trachea as well as and the crop. So and by treating the carcass also, and by treating the carcass after the washing, so which ends up thorough draining of water to the abdominal. So normally the high pressure, low volume nozzles are effectively used to remove the debris. So in case of in case of washing, the proper nozzle positioning is very important to achieve a good and efficient cleaning purpose. So for washing or rinsing, the water that is used should contain bacterial rinses, bacterial antibacterial rinses. So normally chlorine is one of the most commonly used chemicals among the permitted bacterial rinses. So up to 20 ppm chlorine can be used as an antibacterial rinses in the rinsing water or washing water. So apart from chlorine, you can use organic acids and phosphate dips are also sometimes used before chilling. So next one is chilling. So the carcass must be chilled quickly to minimize the microbial growth. So chilling is done to reduce the heat, that is the temperature, from 39 to 5 degree centigrade, 39 to 5 degree centigrade within a few hours after the slaughter. So the regulations require that the temperature of the frozen poultry should be down to minus 80 degrees centigrade within 72 hours of being chilled and packed. So you can keep it in a chilled temperature for 72 hours. After that, so if it is not to be sold, then you want to decrease the temperature further to minus 18 degree centigrade. So the resulting product is stable, and the cooling rate is most important condition in food freezing and chilling. The rate at which the temperature is brought down to the 5 degrees centigrade or to minus 18 degrees centigrade is very important. So it depends on the rate of the temperature declines, the rate at which the temperature declines or rate of reduction in the temperature depends on the factors such as bird size, chilling method, the amount of insulating fat, and the refrigeration equipment and the product load. So the time taken or the rate is very much essential, and it depends upon the size of the bird as well as the chilling method. What are the chilling method you are using? You are using water chilling or spray chilling or air chilling, the amount of insulating fat or and the refrigeration equipment. So the most common methods used for water chilling, chilling are in water immersion chilling, air chilling, and the spray chilling. So this method will depend upon whether the carcass is sold as whole carcass or it is deboning is done and whether the meat is used for further processing. So these every factors will influence or will determine what is the method of chilling to be used. The first one is wet chilling. Among the two common methods of wet chilling, there is water immersion chilling and spray chilling. These are the two common methods that is employed in wet chilling. Among these two, water immersion chilling is most followed method, so which is usually carried out in counterflow screw chiller, and the other one is by spray chilling. So in water immersion chilling, the carcass is dropped into a one or two water bath system through which they are transported by screw conveyor. There will be a huge screw conveyor will be there, organ or the screw conveyor will be there. Through that, the bird will be transported through the screw chiller along with colder and cleaner water. So the agitation is essential for the proper maintenance of temperature. Proper maintenance of temperature as well as the flow of water is very much essential. So the water usage, the wet chilling will depend upon the water usage and temperature of water, and the carcass dwell time or the important parameter to be controlled. So the amount of water that you are using and the temperature of water and the carcass dwell time. Dwell time is how much time you are keeping in the chiller. So these are all the parameters are very important to control during the immersion chilling. Disadvantage is it is labor intensive problem, labor intensive. So you need to have labor for or the system for taking the carcass out of the screw chiller. So once the sealing is completed and it is placed on the shackle line once again for the draining of excess air, for removing the excess water that is to be drained. So in case of wet chilling, there is gradual removal of residual blood and piece of loose tissue that is attached to the product. So there is a gradual removal of the residual blood. So some of the residual blood that is there even after the washing. Some of the pieces of the loose tissues that is attached to the product, some fat tissues. So that will gradual removal will be there. Then the product will be lifted after the chilling and drained and transferred into a larger or secondary post chiller. So where the clean cold water is used to further chill the product. And throughout the immersion chilling, ice can be added at different points to keep the temperature of the water. Once after the immersion chilling, carcass will be moved over a perforated conveyor belt or on a subsequent shackle line or on a moving line to remove the excess water as I told earlier for a couple of minutes. Chilling tank length and diameter are determined by the processing capacity requirements. So whether you can have one chilling tank or two chilling tanks or more number of chilling tanks. So depending upon the capacity of your processing plant and the dwell time and the time taken for chilling are often adjusted by modifying the paddle speed and the number of rotations screw per minute. The average dwell time or average time for taken chilling in case of mid-sized broiler is 30 to 40 minutes. So whereas in case of medium turkeys is 60 to 90 minutes for the chilling. So to increase the cooling efficiency, water agitation and turbulence are used. The carcass will be, there are two types of flow. There is concurrent flow and counter current flow. That is concurrent means the water and the product will flow in the same direction. That is the water and the product will flow in the same direction along the chilling tank. There is concurrent flow. So in case of counter current flow, the carcass will move in one direction, the water will move in the opposite direction. The water will move towards the carcass will move towards the outside. So the microbial quality of the carcass leaving the chiller, water chiller, is typically better than those entering the chiller in case of counter flow design. So where bacteria will be washed away by the current water flow. So next one is by spray chilling. Spray chilling for cold water is normally used for spray chilling, and the cold water is either intermittently or constantly sprayed over the carcass while it moves on the shackle line. The evaporation of water with film from the carcass may assist in cooling the process. And while wetting the carcass, it will avoid excessive moisture loss. So water pickup is less than the immersion chilling method. So next one is by air chilling. So air chilling can be used where the cost of water and wastewater treatment plant is expensive, and when during the in places where the cost of water and wastewater treatment plants are expensive, you can go for air chilling method. So in this, air is continuously blown over the cooling elements, and the air will be circulated in numerous patterns throughout the room at a reasonably high speed for the air chilling. So the birds are chilled to a maximum of 4 degrees centigrade, and it takes around 1.5 to 2 hours for a chilling of 1.52 kg. So disadvantage is that carcass can dry out, resulting in yield losses. When you go for air chilling, so when carcass is not in case of air chilling, the carcass may not be covered properly, and it is still on moving line. So the cold air will take moisture. Some of the moisture may be removed from the carcass and results in yield loss also. So to avoid that, some of the moistening techniques are available, and it can be used to prevent the drying out and have no negative effect on the shelf-life of the carcass. So the air chilling carcass has one of the advantages, that is it is having better microbial quality than the water chilled carcass. So because in case of water chilled carcass, so there may be contamination may be there from cross contamination from one carcass to the other carcass is possible. So whereas in case of air chilling method, the carcass will be placed individually on the shackle, and it is exposed to the cold temperature, and there is no cross contamination is possible in case of air chilling method. And selecting a chilling method depends on the market demand, water cost, and availability, and electricity cost, and capital investment available. So these are all the factors that will influence the chilling method. So when the market demand, going for the what is the type of demand in the market, and the water you use excessive huge amount of water is essential or required in case of chilling, immersion chilling, as well as the spray chilling also, and the electricity also is much used in case of air chilling also, and the investment that is available. So you need to construct, when you go for air chilling means you need to construct one walk-in cooler of huge capacity for storing a process to carcass for 1 day or 2 days. So next one is weighing and grading. So usually grading is not followed, but it is commonly done to facilitate the trade. Based on the weight basis, the carcass is graded, and based on the type of based on the skin coverage, based on the appearance of the carcass, and whether the breast muscle is full, and whether there is any damage or broken bones or exposed skin exposed during the defeathering, or during the if the feather is not removed properly, and the broken bones, and the skin exposed more than 2 inches or more than 3 inches. So according to the different categories, it can be graded. So after chilling, the carcass is normally weighed, graded, and packed or deboned prior to the shell or the further process. So nowadays they are using automated weighing equipment that is connected with a computer network is used to record the weight of each carcass and sort it accordingly. So grading can be done either before or after weighing. So it can be done by means of employing a qualified worker or with assistance of computerized machine vision system. So by means of computerized machine system also you can do that grading. So overall, it is important to recognize that the final grade and overall meat quality can be strongly affected by different steps. The primary process such as unloading, stunning, plucking, chilling, and as well as by the conditions of the farm, feeding, animal health. So the final grade, the final quality or the final grade of the carcass will be affected by these parameters during unloading, the handling of birds during unloading, and the method of stunning, plucking. Sometimes the rubber fingers may be worn out, maybe it may be hard on the skin, and sometimes the skin may be cut during the plucking operation and during the chilling also. The amount of water pickup by the carcass, as well as the conditions on the farm, that is the type of feed, feed which will create, animal health. So everything will have the influence on the grade. Next one is poultry cut-up parts. After that, weighing and grading. Next one is the making different cut-up parts. So based on the consumer requirements, you can go for different types of cut-up parts. So more consumer may require wing drum tip for making the drummer from the wing or winglet for making the lollipop. So based on their requirement, you can go for different types of catamas. So now normally you have wing. In case of wholesale cuts, you have the wing and you have the leg, neck, and then breast, and then rib and back and neck. So these are all the cut-up parts that is normally done in wholesale. And the next one is the wing. So wing is normally obtained by cutting with the shoulder joint. There is articulation between the clavicle, thoracoid, and the humerus. And it includes the wing drummet, winglet, and the wing tip. The portion between the wing drummet and wing tip is the winglet. So wing tip is normally not used, and you can remove the wing tip also. So normally when you are giving it as a wing, normally they will do it with along with the wing tip only they will do it. And the next one is by wing drummet. The proximal portion of the wing which is separated by cutting through the shoulder joint as described, that is through the articulation between the clavicle, thoracoid, and humerus, and from the winglet by cutting through the elbow joint, between the humerus and the radius and ulna. Humerus, radius, and ulna, you will get the wing drummet. And winglet or V-wings, the distal portion of the wing obtained by cutting through the elbow joint, that is between the humerus and the radius and the ulna. So next one is leg. So leg is normally obtained by cutting through the hip joint between the femur and the pelvis. Femur, pelvis, there is a hip joint between the joint between the femur and the pelvic bone. So it includes the thigh and the drumstick. Thigh and drumstick. And some of the pelvic meat can also be included, whereas it does not include the bones, pelvic bones, or the back skin or abdominal skin, and excessive fat is not included in case of the leg. And next one is the thigh. Thigh is obtained by cutting through the hip joint, that is between the femur and the pelvis, and from the drumstick by a straight cut to the knee joint. Straight cut to the knee joint, that is between the femur and the tibial joint, femorotibial articulation. And the next one is the drumstick. It is separated from the thigh by a straight cut to the knee joint, that is the femorotibial articulation, and hock joint. The next one is breast. So this portion is separated from the wing by cutting through the shoulder joint. From the neck, so it is obtained from cutting through all the following sections by cutting through the shoulder joint, and then from the neck by cutting approximately through the 12 cervical vertebra, and from the back by cutting through the ribs at the junction of vertebral ribs and the rib and the back, and from the hind quarter by cutting it immediately behind the rib cage. That is the seventh rib and the 10th. So the breast includes the Y-shaped ends of the ribs and the excessive and exclude the neck skin and the back. So this portion is separated from the neck by cutting in the area of shoulder joint through the 12 cervical vertebra, and it includes the thoracic vertebra, pelvic bones, tail, skin, and the adhering meat. That is the back. So it is separated from the neck in the 12 cervical vertebra, and it includes the thoracic vertebra, pelvic bones, and tail, and the skin, that is skin and adhering meat over the back region. And next one is the neck. The portion is obtained by cutting near the shoulder joint, approximately in the 12th cervical vertebra. So now we see about the primary processing. So now we will see the primary further processing. What are the further processing steps that are followed for the poultry? And for further processing, different types of equipments have been used in the fabrication of raw meat into a further process to make product. So till now we have seen about the primary processing, and now it is the further process to make products. And so there are equipments have been designed for manual as well as the batch type operation. So, but today we are having many processing lines are available for a continuous operation. For example, battering and breading, and deep frying are combined, and you have the continuous operation is there, where the products are formed continuously, battered, breaded, and then deep fried, par fried or deep fried, and then it is frozen, individual quick frozen or frozen. So by employing these equipment, these speeds up manufacturing process and allows more volume of products can be prepared, and it can be handled, and it permits more centralized control as a result, and saves the operation cost. So it should be mentioned that all process performed, that is where the cooking should be carried out at a refrigeration temperature according to the FSIS guidelines, that is below 10 degrees centigrade to minimize the microbial growth. What are the further processing we are doing? So that should be done in a refrigerated temperature. So for good sanitation practices and adequate assessment program can assist in production of safe products. The first one is the size reduction. The size reduction of large chunk meats is the most common process that is involved in manufacturing of ground and comminuted meat products. So breakfast, sausage, salami, and frankfurters, these are all some of the comminuted meat products, ground and comminuted meat products. So normally that is the size reduction. The three main methods that is employed for size reduction is grinding, flaking, and chopping. So grinding is normally the most common method that is employed for reducing the meat particle size. So in this, the meat is forced to a grinding plate that have different size of openings. You can start from 2, 3 millimeter, 4 millimeter, 5 millimeter, and then 7, then 8, 9, depending upon your size selection, particle size. Here, an auger is used to convey the or to push the meat through a moving set of blades and a grinding plate. And you can process from few kgs per hour to the thousands of kgs per hour. So there are some equipments available, so where you can process few kgs to thousands of kgs in the commercial operation. So to increase the grinding efficiency, or some grinders employ two sets of knives at the edge. And the next one is flaking. So in this, the meat that is partially frozen meat chunks or blocks that can be flaked by shaving of the small pieces. So the machine is having a circular cutting edge and a impeller. Impeller will rotate at a high speed, and it will move, it will push the chunks or blocks towards the periphery where the knife is there, and this knife will shear the meat blocks in different sizes. The size of the flakes can be adjusted by the spacing between the vertical knives and the cutting. So by employing this method, the mechanical squeezing, or where you are mechanical cutting, where you want to make thin slices, the mechanical squeezing of muscle fibers is reduced, uh, which can result in a reduced moisture loss. So whereas when you are using the conventional grinder for making the small flakes, and that will result in high moisture loss from the meat. Since the meat muscle they contain about 70% of the moisture is there. So when you are that will result in further economical loss, losing the moisture from the meat. So the meat particles obtained from flaker is having more surface area, as a large surface area that can easily be used in restructured meat product, where muscle-like texture is reconstructed from a small piece of meat. Restructured meat, whether it's by chunking, can have different types of restructured meat products, as in rolls, as a slices, as different types of restructured meat. So that can be sliced and that can be used in burgers and other products. So next one is chopping. So here the meat is passed through a set of cutting knives, and the degree of chopping is controlled by the speed of blades. The speed of blades are their number and the number of passes through the knives. And the process is usually designed to result in a very lean meat, very small lean meat and small particles. So this is achieved by a small gap between the cutting knives and the bowl. So there will be a small gap between the cutting knives and the bowl. So this gap is determine the size of the particles, fat particles, as well as the lean meat size is determined by this small gap. So in bowl chopper, the meat is placed in the cutting bowl, so which rotates at low speed, that is 15 to 30 revolutions per minute, that is RPM. And while the meat is chopped by a set of sickle-shaped knives. So normally we have 3, 5, then 7, 9, then 12, 15 knives. The number of knives can be increased, and at a speed that will rotate around the speed of 2000 RPM. And to speed up the process, some designs have two sets of blades, two sets of cutting heads are employed to increase the efficiency of the process. And during this bowl chopping, the removal of air from the product is beneficial in minimizing liquid oxidation. And thereby we have employed a vacuum bowl chopper. Vacuum bowl choppers are employed. where the air is removed from the pod. That is, it is beneficial in reducing the liquid oxidation. The next one is mixing or blending. So blending is another very common step in producing meat products. So it is used to achieve four major goals: provide uniformity when different meat sources are used, and the mixing of non-meat ingredients within the meat batter, and assist in extracting salt-soluble proteins from meat by providing mechanical oxidation, and enhance the absorption of brine solution into the muscle. So normally mixing or blending a blender, actually you can call it as blender also. So normally it is employed to provide uniformity when different meat sources are used. So you may use different meat sources. For example, when you prepare the sausages, so normally the trimmings are used to preparing the sausages. So normally you use the skin from the poultry as a sausage ingredient, and when you are using different meat sources, so all of them can be mixed uniformly to have a to provide uniformity in the product. And when you are making some product with non-meat ingredients, to mix all the salts and spices within the meat batter. And and in extracting salt soluble proteins. When you are going for meat product, restructured meat product, where the salt soluble proteins will play a major role, that will be acting as a glue the restructured meat product that requires the mechanical agitation and enhance the absorption of brine solution. So during the curing reaction, during the curing of muscle. To ensure the proper mixing, the mixer or blender should be filled only on the top of the blades or panels. So otherwise the proper blending or mixing will not be achieved. Up to the top of the blades you can fill the meat or the products which are to be blended or mixed. And and above the blades which are filling it, there will not be proper mixing will not be there. And over mixing should be prevented, and because it can result in too much muscle fiber breakage. Next one is injecting. So by using in olden days curing has been normally done for cured for the preparation of cured meat products. So with addition of nitrates, and then for preparing salt and other things for preparing the cured meat. And nowadays, instead of normally they are done by means of wet curing, and dry curing is normally follow. Brine soaking or dry curing are two major curing methods that is followed by the old muscle products. And nowadays they are going for the injection. And by injection, the equipment is used to inject the or to introduce the brine solution of determined quantity into a large whole muscle products, large whole muscle products, and so because the dry curing and brine curing are the time consuming process, so especially when you are doing for the huge or the large muscles, and today you can use the mechanical injectors that are available, and you can use the inject the predetermined brine solution into the muscle, and thereby you can save the time for the curing reaction. So the special care should be taken to give the uniformity of injection process to prevent high salt nitrate concentration in localized areas where bones are present. So during the injection, the care should be taken that every part is injected with uniformity is maintained in the injection process. If the uniformity is not there, some areas may have some high salt concentration will be there, and it will appear some dark color, and it will give flavor also, and the texture also will be affected. Case of uneven distribution of salt. Next one is the tenderization and the maceration. So meat obtained from the old birds, that is after the production period, or from the spent birds, the meat can be tenderized by the injection of the injection needles, large needles or blades. That is by maceration. Maceration means the blades are used to slash the meat surface to a few millimeter heat. Blades are used, numerous blades are used, and the meat that is to be macerated will be inserted into the macerating blades, and the blades will penetrate the meat into a few millimeter depth, and so this is sometimes used to increase the surface area that is available for the protein extraction, salt-soluble protein extraction, and it can also disturb the connective tissue that is covering the muscles, thus increasing the better binding during the cooking process. After the injection of brine, it is normally common to tumble the meat, that is to achieve an even distribution of the brine and to enhance the brain absorption and facilitate the extraction of salt-soluble proteins. The next one is tumbling and massaging. So it is done to achieve the proper brine distribution and the protein extraction from whole or chunk to muscle products. So both the processes are done to have the proper brine distribution and the protein extraction from the whole or chunk. So in both these processes, the meat will be subjected to a certain degree of agitation that assists in distributing the salt and solubilizing myofibril of the meat. So tumbling is usually done in a rotating drum that have different baffles or ribbons designs on the sides. So massaging is done in a stationary mixing vessel where the paddle is used to slowly move the meat. So in case of tumbling, the entire drum will be rotated. It is of vertical, it is of horizontally placed. Tumbling will be, the machine will be horizontally placed, and the entire drum will be rotated. Rotating drum will be there, and the meat will be taken to a higher level, and it will be falling from the higher level to the lower level. There will be continuous agitation will be there. Whereas in case of massaging, so the drum will be stationary, and the center portion it will have a paddles will be there. The paddles will slowly move the meat, and there is no it is considered as more gentle since there is no lifting and dropping of meat as in case of the tumbler. So temperature control is another important factor, and tumblers and massagers are usually placed in the refrigerated area and have a double wall construction that allows fast cooling by circulating a cooling vessel. So that whenever you are using tumblers and massagers, temperature control is very much essential. Keeping the meat cold and constantly removing the heat that is created by the friction of moving the meat chunks is important in obtaining a good protein extraction and in suppressing the microbial. So keeping the meat in cold is essential in two aspects. So it is obtaining a good protein extraction and suppressing the microbial growth. So this the agitation which can be applied for 1 to several hours that helps to disturb the tissue structure and assist in distributing the brine solution and develops a protein exudate that will serve as a glue to bind the meat chunks during cooking. So particularly during the preparation of restructured meat product. So these glue will serve as a binding agent. The heat gain natural proteins form a binding gel matrix upon heating. There is salt soluble protein upon heating. Operating under vacuum can operate the vacuum tumbler under vacuum also, that is vacuum tumbler. So that helps in removing the air bubbles from the exudate, and it also assists in protein extraction. So most of the commercially available tumblers and massagers are equipped with vacuum capabilities. You can create the vacuum of this much pressure. You can 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar pressure. You create it, and you can go for the tumbling action. Stuffing. So normally stuffing is done in case of preparation of sausages. In sausages, you use various types of stuffers are available, and normally there are two basic types. One is piston operated, and the pump stuffers are there. The piston is air driven and using a manual or electrical energy, and forces the meat from a cylindrical storage chamber or a barrel to a stuffing. So either it can be operated by manually or it can be operated by electrical energy, by using electrical energy. So that is positioned horizontally, and the moving plate pushes the meat towards the end of the barrel, which is fitted with the horn. That is the horn along with casing will be fitted on the top, and the meat will be the batter will be stuffed into the casing, and after that stuffing, it is linking is done. Linking is done, and the product will be cooked with water, or it can be with smoking, or smoking chamber also can be used for cooking, and after that it can be served for consumption. So whereas in case of hydraulic stuffers are normally positioned in a vertical way, and the moving plate pushes the meat to the top. The plate will be present at the bottom, and the batter will be placed on the plate, and due to the hydraulic action, the meat will be pushed towards the top, and there are three different types of horn is there based on the diameter of 1.52 and 1 centimeter diameter is there, and that can be used for stuffing the casing. So that is the speed and the pressure are controlled by the operator. So in order to match the size and type of the casing you are using. So normally different types of casings are there. So you can go for artificial casing or naturally available casing that is prepared from the intestines of large animal as well as the small ruminants. Next one is the farming machine. Farming machines are used to farm products such as patties and the nuggets. So these products are generally prepared from a mixture, that is ground and mixture of ground and emulsified meat. Emulsified meat and ground meat is normally used for farming meat products, that is the nuggets as well as the patties. So these farming machines now is basically a press with different templates. So that usually that is used to form any shape desired, any shape that is desired, rectangle, square, or round, oval. So there are triangles, there are different types of molds are there that can be used to form different shape, different desired shape, and these shape when you are going for the forming machine, this shape will give this much weight. That is there. That is given by the manufacturers. That will be given by the manufacturer. So when you are preparing a product of oval or round of 6 inches or 5 inches, so this product will have this much weight. That is given by the manufacturer's guidelines. equipment manufacturer guidelines, manufacturers will give you the guidelines. And so basically, you can have different types of shapes. So these formed product does not hold well in the raw state. So in order to maintain the shape, the newly formed product, that is the putty or magnet, is usually individually quick frozen, that is IQF, frozen in bulk or fried to maintain the shape. The next one is battering and breading. So battering and breading machines are usually used to uniformly apply the batter, breading coat on a whole muscle or formed products. So battering is nothing but is a batter that is prepared from flour by using the combination of flours, salt and spices. And the breadcrumbs are available. You can use it for breading purpose. And the equipment is will be connected uh, will be a series of conveyor belts connected via a series of conveyor belts. First, breading battering will be there. Batter will be poured from the top, and the bottom will have the seal. And one after the after coating of one side, it will be turned upside down, where the other side will be coated and with the batter. And after that battery, it will be taken to the breading section on the conveyor belt, where the breadcrumbs will be uh, poured. And after that, after the pouring of breadcrumbs, you have the agitator will be there. So this agitator will vibrate to remove the some of the excess thickness of the breading layer will be removed, and to have the uniform layer, you can apply the agitator. After that, you will have the frying section will be there. Frying section, and in frying section you can have the product will be fried, or you can go for the quick frozen, individual quick freezing for the storage. The next one is smoking. Smoking is considered as one of the oldest method that is used to preserve the meat. It has been used since olden days. So both drying and deposition of numerous antibacterial compounds found in smoke will help to prevent the spoilage. Today there are some commercial smoking houses are available where the smoking can be done, or we can use the liquid smoke that is available, can be used to impart the smoky flavor as well as the color, as well as some preservative action will be there for the liquid smoke. So it is prepared by means of by employing some specialized woods or used for preparing the liquid smoke that can be used. The next one is slicing. Uh, so normally you have the slicer to the cooked sausages of 2 inches, 2 inches diameter, 2 inches diameter, or 3 inches diameter. When you are going for preparation of burger, you have the slicer. You should have the slicer to slice the meat to a uniform thickness. After that, after the casing, after the stuffing the casing, and then freezing it, or off cooking it, and you can slice it to a different thickness, and it can be used for the various products. Next one is dicing. You can produce the cubes, strips, or diced products that can be done by using the whole muscles. After deboning, you can use the muscle, and you can produce the cubes of uniform thickness. So cubes that can be used easily. That can be used for consumption. Dicing machines. Thank you. So if you have any doubt, you can ask. So thank you all for giving me the opportunity for presenting primary and further person.
Satish, எப்ப நான் சொல்லிடுறேன். Hello participants, you refresh for a short while because we have very short time to attend the next session. So you just refresh for a short while, and in the meantime another lecturer will join you. Link ना करता है.
வெளில வந்து